my concept of very short walks has seemingly got to an absolute extreme. I thought this was the case for Madrid when I only had a little time to walk around it, but for Alcalá de Henares I had even less time, and what's even worse, this was the second half of the day. But is this a good reason to not go there at all? Of course not. So please welcome Alcalá de Henares, the city of UNESCO National Heritage, the city of Storks, students, and Cervantes. Let's go. I only had enough time to walk around the very center of the city this time. Something like this. The city itself is pretty old. Like many similar cities, it was established by Romans in the 1st century BC, although at the moment it was called Complutum. However, nothing really interesting has happened there until 306 AD, when two Christian boys, Justa and Pastor, were executed here by the order of the Roman Emperor Diocletian. After that, the city became popular with pilgrims, and 100 years later, the Archbishop of Toledo canonized the boys. In 711, the city was captured by Arabs, who built the so-called Alcalá nearby. In fact, Alcalá is simply a fortress used to defend the surroundings, and since there were quite a lot of such fortresses around, this particular one, which was built near the Henares River, was referred to as Alcalá de Henares. In May 1118, the army of the Archbishop of Toledo captured the city back, and thanks to its position, this was the road which the kings of Castile, which was one of the kingdoms since Spain was not united into a single state at the time, so these kings used this road to head south, and as a normal city standing on a trade route, Alcalá started to prosper again. In the very end of the 15th century, the university was founded by Cardinal Francisco Jiménez de Cisneros, who was the Archbishop of Toledo at the time. The university was not built from the scratch though, it was an expansion of the so-called Estudios Generales, found some 200 years before that by the King of Castile. The only subjects to study were grammar and scripture, and therefore the colleges of the university were closely mixed with the monasteries, where the monks who taught in the university lived. And for the same reason, of all the students, we only know writers and religious figures like Lope de Vega, Francisco de Quevedo, Pedro Calderón de la Barca, Tirso de Molina, and, for example, Ignacio Loyola, who will appear in our story later again. In the 19th century, the university was moved to Madrid and expanded to include science studies, and therefore among its students we now know Mario Vargas Llosa, Luis Buñuel, Pío Baroja, Severo Ochoa, Santiago Ramón y Cajal, Xavier Solana. Oh yes, I know, I'm sometimes so boring. Hey, what's going on? Get the sound back on. Let's better walk around the city. Just like any medieval town, Alcalá de Henares was once surrounded by the city walls with a number of gates. However, only the western gate survived until now, the so-called Madrid gate, which was on the road to the capital. What we now see is actually not the original medieval gate, similar to the corresponding Alcalá gate in Madrid. This gate is located on the same place where the old gate stood, but the one we see was built in the 18th century by the order of Cardinal Lorenzano. Behind the gate there is an old city center, acknowledged as a World Heritage Site by UNESCO. There are 3 remaining towers overlooking the small square, and these towers seem to be a fantastic spot for the numerous nests of the white storks. And a little further, behind the parking lot, there are some ruins which seem totally inappropriate here. I have no idea what the UNESCO Commission thought about those, but obviously the storks are enjoying them a lot. I have never seen so many storks anywhere. They are so cool, and we later learned that the stork is an official city mascot. Right behind the parking lot, there is another treasure, the Archbishop Palace. The fact is that right after being deoccupied from the Arabs, Alcalá de Henares became the lordship of the Archbishops of Toledo. And they obviously have built a palace for themselves in accordance with their high status. Unfortunately, the palace has been seriously damaged in a fire during the Spanish Civil War in 1939 and has not been open to public yet. Which is actually a pity, because it would be really exciting to see the archives of the infamous Spanish Inquisition, which are kept there. Another interesting thing to mention about the palace is that it was here where the Queen Isabella met Christopher Columbus, who asked her for the money to fund his expedition. I have already mentioned this story during our trip around Madrid. Here's the link to it. And it was also here in 1485 where the Catherine of Aragon, the youngest daughter of Isabella of Castile and Ferdinand of Aragon, was born. She will later become the Queen of England and become the reason why one of the districts of London is still called Elephant and Castle. The monument to her is on the other side of the palace. Across a little square from the palace, there are some smaller buildings, which is the so-called Oratory of San Felipe Neri. It's actually quite a strange thing. This institution is involved in providing social services, but its members are not monks. They can leave the place at any moment. This particular congregation is for men only, but there is also a similar structure for women. It's called beguinage, and you can find a lot of them further north in the Netherlands and Belgium. Behind the palace, there is a museum and the 17th century Monastery of San Bernardo. The main building was erected in 1618 by Juan Gómez da Mora, who at the time was a royal architect. He also built Plaza Mayor in Madrid, Santa Cruz Palace, which was actually originally built as a prison, and the Encarnacion Monastery. And going further, we'll find beautiful small streets with some amazing tile work. And look, it's really appreciated here. There's no graffiti that spreads to the tiles. And here, we finally approach the main street of the city. The first thing you see, if you come from the same side as I did, is the birthplace of probably the most famous Spaniard in the world, Miguel Cervantes. The house is now a museum, and the entrance is, what a surprise, free of charge. Let's be fair, just another good reason to visit. But let me leave Cervantes for a minute and continue along Calle Major. It looks quite original, and in fact this is indeed how it looked like centuries ago. Quite packed 2-3-story buildings with shops below and living quarters for the owners above, only that in the 15th century there was a gallery connecting the top floors, so one could pass along the whole street without going out from under the roof. But who lived here at the time? Well, unsurprisingly, the main trade street was a part of the Jewish quarter from the 12th century. And although the golden age of Jews in Spain ended with the Alhambra decree in 1492, the remnants of the belonging of the place can still be found. There is no synagogue here anymore, but instead a cozy courtyard which you can come into. Across the street from a former synagogue, there is another place now connected with the history of religion. This is the so-called Antezana house, the oldest private hospital in Europe, opened in 1483. It was originally built for the poor and for the numerous pilgrims, but it's famous because of one particular person, Ignacio Loyola, who was then just a soldier, but later became the founder of the Society of Jesus, and certainly proclaimed a saint. There are different opinions about Loyola's reasons to be in Alcalá. Some say he worked in this hospital, others say he simply rested here after a walk from Barcelona. Mind you, it's over 600 kilometers. And the third say he simply lived here while studying in the university which I have already mentioned. Well, maybe all together. And by the way, some historians also say that Rodrigo, the father of Miguel Cervantes, also worked in this hospital as a surgeon. A bit further down the street, there is a palace of Marquis Lanzarote, which was later converted into a Carmelite monastery, where the sister of Cervantes, Leonora, was once an abbess. Since we have mentioned Cervantes again, Here we come to the most famous square in Alcalá de Henares, the Cervantes Square. In fact, for many years this was just a common market square, which was renamed after Cervantes only in the 19th century. Before that, it was a common central square where people traded, had fun, burned books and people, and it seems sometimes all at the same time. In the very center of the square, there is, of course, a monument to Miguel Cervantes, with the almost mandatory bas-relief showing the characters of his stories. On the right-hand side from the monument, there is a small street leading to the so-called San Ildefonso College, which was actually the first college found in the university by Cardinal Cisneros, and therefore it's obvious that the monument to Cardinal stands here. Let us get back for a minute. On the left-hand side from the monument, there is an officially looking building, and indeed, this is now a city council. But the only reason I mention it here is because earlier it was yet another college of the University of Alcalá. Behind the monument, there is a tall bell tower. Some say you can also climb it up and see the city from above, but I actually believe such medieval cities are better seen from the ground. They are a lot more natural this way. There is a stork nest on the top of the tower, so the access to it is forbidden when the storks are breeding. And at the bottom of the tower, there is a monument to Luis Astrana Marin, one of the best biographers of Cervantes. A bit further behind the tower is a large square which seems totally out of place here. And indeed, it did not exist here before. Here was a church where Miguel Cervantes was originally baptized. This is how it looked like. The church got destroyed during the Civil War in Spain in 1936. And if you look closely at the tower, you will easily see where the original walls were connected to it. Now all that's left from the church is the floor with the remaining walls and two buildings, the bell tower we saw before and the Mudéjar-style Oidora chapel with the original baptismal font of Cervantes. Behind the remnants of the church, there is a road to the left where most of the historic colleges of the university were located. Hence the name, the College Street. Further right, it transforms into the Ursula Street, where the colleges are still mixed up with the monasteries. Say the School of Architecture is standing opposite the Augustinian convent. But all in all, the city is very literary. And apart from Cervantes, many of the students have become renowned authors, so it's nothing unexpected to see a monument like this. The Ursula Street bumps into the square of Saint Kids. Remember I mentioned Justo and Pastor before? The church that was built to commemorate them and where Cardinal Cisneros is buried was closed when I arrived. It is said to be on a repair for quite a while, since it was also damaged about 100 years ago during the same Spanish Civil War when the Santa Maria Church where Cervantes was baptized was destroyed. This was almost the end of my walk, and after a short time I arrived back to the Madrid gate. Well, what can I say to finalize it? I only have very pleasant emotions from the city despite the lack of time. Thanks to its size and age, it feels very calm and yet lively. It does not suppress you. It's not a big city of a huge empire like Madrid, but it certainly has its own atmosphere and self-esteem, which is rare and very attractive nowadays. But you should come here when you have enough time, to walk around, to sit in the squares, to grab some coffee, to admire ubiquitous storks, and just to look around like Cervantes probably did. I'm not sure if you will also become a writer after that, but you will definitely keep all good memories about the place.